All righty. So anyway, we have pivoted this event into a town hall with Councilman Mike Hoheisel. Thank you for being here with us. And my hope for this evening is that we'll be able to have a polite and meaningful discussion on a variety of issues facing our city and in particular District 3, which is the southeastern part of Wichita. I do have a list of questions that I've made up, but this is your event. So I'd like to, as much as possible, answer any questions that come from this audience. We are going to be using written questions tonight. It's a matter of, it's a technical matter with the microphones. If we just took questions from the audience, the people who are watching us on live stream at home would not have been able to hear the questions. So there are 3x5 cards. I think y'all have those or have access to those, or they're on the table. Maybe we can get those handed out. And if you have a question that you'd like to ask, go ahead and write that down, and I will be happy to ask it for you. So again, welcome to all those who are watching us on live stream. So before we get to the questions, I'd like to kick us off by thanking Councilman Hoheisel for being here tonight. So I'd like to start with a question that was submitted in advance by a member of the public via our Wichita Journalism Collaborative website. And we'll start off with an easy one. What is one of your favorite things about District 3, and how are you working to support moving that forward?
We have so many families in District 3, working families, families with children. One of my favorite projects that I've had the privilege of working on over the last 4 years is Clapp Park, the inclusive playground at Clapp Park. We kind of picked and chose what was feasible in the Clapp Park master plan. So the playground out there right now is an inclusive playground, so kids of all abilities can go and play on it. It's really neat. You have a big boom. You can take a kid up in a wheelchair to the top of the slide, let them go down. You have zip lines that you can strap a kid in, including kids who are usually in wheelchairs. They can slide back and forth. We have stations where kids can teach each other sign language, a trampoline that a kid in a wheelchair can get in and bounce up and down. It's really neat. And on some of my tougher days, I will go and sit out there for a couple of minutes and just watch the kids all go up to the playground and play, because that's one of the important things that we are facing in South Wichita is quality of life issues. So it's been my pleasure to push this project through and make sure that every kid in the area has a chance to be a kid. It's a half a mile away from Plainview. It's right across the street from Hilltop. A lot of people there have transportation and accessibility issues. So just being able to see the kids out there enjoying their time out at Clapp Park and enjoying, again, their childhood, that's been a cherry on top of the last 4 years for me.
Well, in that same sort of vein, let me ask you what you think is the biggest problem facing District 3 and what you're doing to address that.
Well, right now I would say it all kind of goes hand in hand between homelessness, addiction, mental health, lack of services, lack of affordable housing for these issues as well. We can drive through the district. We can actually drive through the city now and the country and see the rise in the number of homeless people that we have out there. The state has closed over 5,000 beds over the past couple of decades as far as mental health goes. They are making some ground up now with the investment of the state hospital at Meridian and MacArthur, and also some community health behavioral clinics, trying to make some space up with that. Addiction is just flying hardcore through our city. We have opioid settlement funding that we are looking at, trying to identify gaps, so that way people can actually get treatment before they become homeless. So that way people, especially people with a lack of insurance, has access to treatment. That's one of the big issues we're facing right now, is people don't have access to medical detox, for example. So if you don't have insurance, and a lot of people have that demon. A lot of people don't have that demon and are able to escape it. But we really need to make sure that we capture people before they get on the street. And then another thing that we've been talking about nonstop over the last 4 years is the multi-agency center. It's not going to be the cure-all, but it is going to be a major step in the right direction. It is the Old Park Elementary School up on 9th and Main, and it's based off of the Haven for Hope in San Antonio. It's a model to where people can come in and get the services that they actually need. So everybody has this idea of why a person's homeless. And it's, some people say it's mental health. Some people say it's addiction. Some people say it's lack of housing. Some people say it's one bad day and you just don't have the income to actually cover that. So the multi-agency center will have our housing department there. ComCare is going to be working to get in there as well. These office spaces are being built out as now. Addiction counseling, addiction therapy will be there as well. Commissioner Howell and I actually had an opportunity to go to the Haven of Hope here a couple of weeks ago. And one of the things that struck me there was the number of kids and families who were there. Women who are fleeing domestic violence, for example. And it's in one instance, on one side, it tugs at your heartstrings because you do see these families and these kids, but then you also see the hope. You also see that there isn't actually a way for them to get the assistance that they need to get back into society. And the most striking thing that I took away from it is 65% of people who went through that program never come back. That means that they do find their way into housing. That means they do find their way off of the street. This is something that, again, it's not the cure-all because we actually need to catch people before they become homeless, but giving people an avenue to get out of the cycle that they are in is one of the major issues that, quite frankly, we've been putting it off for far too long. And we are just now getting caught up on it. 4 years ago, that's what I said is, when I get down here, I'm looking for long-term solutions. We can't keep playing whack-a-mole with problems. We can't just move a campsite from one space to another. We do have to protect our neighborhoods. That is something that I do agree with. When people are talking about closing down campsites, anytime we go into a wooded area and we clean that out, Plainview, South Broadway, a lot of neighborhoods in my district, that's where it gets pushed into. We need to protect our neighborhoods. We need to make sure that the kids there are safe, but we also need to actually address the underlying issues. Otherwise, we're just going to keep stressing our resources, turning one big campsite into 25 or 30 smaller campsites. So coming up with long-term solutions, I'm in it for the long run. I want to die in Wichita. I want my kids to grow up in Wichita. But the way to do that, the way to keep people here and to keep our community safe is to actually come up with long-term solutions instead of just keep going for short-term fixes.
Thank you. I have noticed that I think several people have written questions on their cards. If you just want to hold those up when they're done, somebody will be by to collect those and get those up to me. I noticed people writing while they were doing that. And so on to our next question, and it's a Plainview question.
Yes, sir.
So one of the big factors affecting life in the city is the current state of parks and recreation, particularly in southeast Wichita. And I'd like you to talk for a minute about the plans for the Plainview Recreation Center. And if you would, please explain for our audience here and the audience at home what that plan entails and what led you to support building a new recreation center there from the ground up as opposed to the proposed alternative plan of repurposing the closed Jardine School.
Thank you for that question. We are currently in the design phase of a Plainview Rec Center / community neighborhood center. We have one down there now that is attached to Colvin School, and it is about the size of this room right here. It's not very big. We've had a lot of people wanting to get into Plainview, which is one of our most impoverished neighborhoods that needs a lot of love and a lot of care. But unfortunately, we don't have the space to keep them in there. That's one of the issues we're facing. Also, we need to give kids a place to go, something to do in their downtime. A lot of times kids get in trouble and they go down the wrong path because they're hanging out with the wrong element. But we have empirical data that shows that places with neighborhood resource centers, that cuts down on crime, that cuts down on poverty. So when I got into office, this has actually been a project that some of our CSRs has been pushing for quite a while, our community service representatives who works out of there. They see the need in that community. So we got together, we took a couple of projects in the CIP, including one parks project in Plainview with the ball fields there, and we combined it to come up with about $10 million for a new center there. Now, this is not just a center for Plainview. This is a center for all of District 3. This is a place that we can all go and meet, have town halls. People can come up there for resources. We're looking at putting a food pantry in there as well because, again, in my district, there is a lot of need for something like that. So when I heard that Jardine was closing, that was quite a strike through the neighborhood and through our district. We actually had to figure out how to, because it was within the 2.5 miles, our transit is actually picking up kids that used to go to Jardine and taking them to Meade. So that way kids won't have to cross Hillside, Pawnee, and Mount Vernon to get to their new school. So we've had to do a lot of adjustment. We put a pause on the project to look at the feasibility of going into Jardine. The price tag came back about $20 million to get it up to code to where we could use it. We explored other possibilities. None of them really made sense fiscally. I do take into account taxpayers, making sure that your tax dollars work for you. And so we eventually just went ahead and pushed it through on a vote of 6-1. Again, looking at every opportunity to go into Jardine. But right now we're in the design phase, and the project's moving along, and I hope here in the next couple of years we will be able to have conversations like this at a new community center right in the heart of Plainview. Again, we'll be able to get violence interrupters in there. That's a group that a lot of them are ex-gang members themselves, that they are working with kids, trying to teach them to go down different paths. I went down this path and it trapped me. So how can we pivot and help get the kids on the right path? Senior services out of there too. There's a lot of services that can go into the center, and violence is contagious. So you might think it's in a different neighborhood, it's not going to affect me. A lot of violence starts in one area and then spreads to another. So this is a great way to be able to actually help cut down on violence and, again, get the people the services that they need.
All righty. Well, that leads us into a question that we've gotten from the audience here.
Yes, sir.
What can be done about local gun violence, and how can the city ensure the safety of the community? And do you think that gun violence is connected to mental health?
I do think gun violence is connected to mental health. And I think one of the main things that we can do is actually lock our own guns up. We had 3 children in my district shot earlier this year because people had left their handguns laying around the house. 2 of them did not survive. And that's a heck of a thing to think about. That's a heck of a thing to have on your conscience. I feel responsible for that. Another thing is that guns are getting stolen out of cars all the time, and those guns are later used in crimes. I do agree that mental health is definitely an issue. I personally am a gun owner, but I try to, again, keep it locked up responsibly. I shoot trap and skeet, so sports. But they're out there right now. We have invested heavily in technology like Raven gunshot detection, which is a definite improvement over the gunshot detection that we have had previously, and the real-time information center that just the other day opened up to the public. It's in the police department on the 5th floor, and you can go up there if you see the newspaper article that they wrote about it a couple of days ago. Drones are going around, being able to respond quicker to phone calls, 911 calls, being able to get out to areas where we do hear gunshots. And this is definitely, and another way that we're looking at it is also not just preventative, but how responsive we have to be. One of the darkest days in my the last 4 years, 3 months on to the job, I'm having a meeting with the city manager. We meet once a week. And I get a knock on the door, and our comms team and some of our police administration staff comes in. Gunshots, North High, 23 kids down, 2 kids going around with assault rifles. I sat there for 2 minutes. It was a hoax. It was a hoax that was called in, but those 2 minutes, I felt worthless. What have I done to help prevent this? What can I do in the future? That really dumps a nice bucket of cold ice water on you. And it just made me reevaluate what things I need to do and concentrate on. So active shooter responses, that's another thing that we've been pushing with WPD here lately, working with county and EMS and fire. How are we going to respond if and when an incident like this happens? So it's so many different levels. I agree that mental health is definitely a big part of it. I came along before social media, thank God. But I'm looking around now and I see just the impact of just all the stimulation coming through and kids just cycling through, doom scrolling, what impact that has on our youth. So it's definitely an issue tied to mental health as well, but it's something that it's going to take a lot of effort to really get our hands around.
Okay. I have another question here that was submitted by our audience tonight. As citizens in our own neighborhoods, how do we address having lights installed in our parks that are dark in the playground areas?
Good question. We actually contract out with Evergy. Our engineering department, there's an engineer's guidebook that looks at how often we should have lights in our area. So if you think that there is a dark spot or anything like that, you give me a call or you shoot me an email, and we go out and we do a lighting study throughout the neighborhood. And we find spots that, yes, this is where it is appropriate to have another light. Then we contact Evergy, and we eventually get it installed there. A lot of it also has to do with trimming trees around the lights. I would love to put as many lights up in our neighborhood as possible. That is something I think we should explore more in the CIP in the future years. But if you have the concerns about specific neighborhoods, that is the process that we go through. And then we rely on Evergy to do their end of the job.
And this is another audience question, a very friendly one, apparently. You attend so many events in your district. How do you find the time and energy?
Well, ever since the boy was born, I'm not sure I have a whole lot of the energy. This is all show right here is what this is. No, it's I take my job seriously. And that means getting out and mixing it up with people. It means showing up, sometimes in uncomfortable situations. I miss my family. I miss volleyball games. I miss basketball games. I miss cuddling with the kid and watching Jurassic Park. I miss family dinners. But this job is about showing up for the people. You got to take this job seriously. One example, my 2-year-old, just a day before his second birthday, got RSV at daycare. My wife that morning took him to the doctor. I was in the middle of an en banc meeting, and I get a text, hey, they're sending us to the hospital. So I leave that meeting immediately. I go up to the hospital. Everything ended up all right. He was little ornery. If you know my son, he's pretty rambunctious. They had his arms to where he could not pull the oxygen out of his nose. He was upset about that. But as I was leaving to pick up my other kid from family and take her back home, I get a phone call about the airplane, the crash over the Potomac. So instead of going home and dealing with that, it was to City Hall and then out to the airport, talking with the family, talking with our federal delegation as well, making sure that we were there for whatever we could do for our community in that time. It's a tough balance. There was another incident in 23. My granddad had passed away. he was in hospice for a while. And that happens. And then 11 hours later, my dad passed away as well. So 2 in one day. I woke up with 2 generations in front of me and went to bed the oldest male in my family. And sat around with some of my family and chatted that night and laughed and cried, and then got up and scrubbed my face and went to City Hall the next day for our agenda review. But again, it's because of the people. It's because of the people that I'm here trying to help. That's the oath that I took when I got on council. And the whole time it's been about my last breath. It's been about when I'm passing away, what can I look back on? What are those final thoughts going through my head? What am I going to leave behind? So I'll keep going until I drop, essentially. And the boy keeps me on my toes, that's for sure, but I think he drains quite a bit of that energy from me. So.
Okay. Well, thank you. By the way, if you'd like to have a swig of water, certainly.
I'm talking a lot. I'm a politician.
You are talking, yeah. We it's. While you're doing that, I'm going to ask one of my own questions here. I would like to switch gears here and talk a little bit about campaign finance. We have seen the cost of running for Wichita City Council escalate over these past few years. And this year, the Kansas legislature raised the contribution limit for local races in cities of our size from $500 to $2,000 per person. There's some question as to whether that $500 limit remains in force or the $2,000 limit is now applicable. But be that as it may, big money contributors can still stack their electoral contributions through the use of LLCs, businesses they own, or just do outside spending that's not controlled in any way. Excuse me. Can you fill us in on where you stand on this issue? And do you have any idea on how to prevent a relative handful of very wealthy people, many of whom do business directly with the city, from basically buying our elections?
Well, I appreciate that. A little bit of clarity. I believe it's $500. It was $500 for the primary and $500 for the general, and then the $2,000 would be $1,000 for the primary and $1,000 for the general, as far as I understand. It's not currently in the city ordinance. We did deal with campaign finance a couple of years ago. That was one of the things I was big on. Stacking is the main issue. Stacking is the main issue that I have. If I could go back again, I might allow for everybody, every business to have one donation or one primary donation, because it is a tricky issue, and there are some people like down there at the Monarch who have some issues with parking in the area, and as a business they would like to be represented. But stacking to where, like you said, one person can donate from 17 LLCs, the $500 contribution max, $1,000 contribution max. That is an issue. That is an issue. I can donate $500. And if we amend our ordinance here shortly and match the state ordinance, I would be able to donate up to $1,000. Again, one person, one donation. What we have now, and it really only applies to 2 different areas. It's bail bondsmen and also developers, because they have to, for insurance reasons, have multiple LLCs per project. So that allows them, again, to have 17 different LLCs, for example, and be able to donate $500 or $1,000 per LLC. We did get that pushed through to ban that, and then that lasted 2 or 3 months, and then now it's back to the way it used to be.
Was it that long?
It may have been that long. I think right about then.
It was more like 2 or 3 weeks.
But it is the current law. It's tricky because a lot of this is also outside of our purview, out of our ability to deal with. Dark money, people can run super PACs and whatnot and put money into different races. So that one is tricky because that is, again, beyond our ability to regulate. Citizens United did allow for certain allowances, especially with educational groups. Yeah, it's definitely a tricky one. It's one that I wish we could crack down on. Again, I do respect individual businesses and individual business people who own one company possibly donating, but whenever it comes to stacking, I think that is an issue that we have.
By the way, I would like to renew our invitation to the audience to write any questions down. If you need a card, just raise your hand. And if you, there you go. If you have a card, just when you're done writing your question, just raise up the card and somebody will be by to get it. So I have another audience card here. Okay, this is a fun one. So it's 3 parts. Name one thing you are proud you have completed as a councilman. Number 2, name one thing you are working on. And number 3, name one thing you hope to complete if you're reelected. You can have the card if you need it.
I appreciate that. I'll start with the middle one because I think that is one that is one of the biggest issues, and it's working on and since that the project is ongoing, and that is the upgrades at the BNR sewage treatment plant. I grew up at Pawnee and Broadway. I make this joke all the time, but it's the truth. One day you would wake up smelling the bread plant there not too far away. The next day you'd wake up and you would smell the result of the bread plant there. So this has been an issue, a quality of life issue for quite some time. We are mandated to make upgrades according to the EPA to clean the water, essentially to make the water pure that we are putting back into the river. So as part of that package, at first it was around 46% odor control reduction that we were going to do there. When I got on there and on the steering committee, I made sure that we went with the top package that we possibly could. I'm not technically supposed to say the percentage. It's over 90. So I'm supposed to technically say major odor reduction is coming. I was actually out there today looking at the project. This time next year is about when the odor control part of that project will be done. So we should be seeing a lot of benefits by then. And then a year after that, the overall project will be done. So if we qualify that as working on, that is one thing that I am proud of. The thing that I am proud to have completed, I think Clapp Park. Also, we have recently changed our ordinance to allow some prosecution of people who are doing illegal dumping. One of the issues that we had in our district, we all know illegal dumping is definitely one of the big issues in our district. It used to be that it was so hard to prove that the person who owned the truck was the one doing the dumping, and that stopped a lot of prosecution on cases where we actually had them on camera. But recently we did change the ordinance to where the person whose truck it is actually doing the dumping will be held liable as well. And we also increased cameras. So we will be putting those in problem spots and catching people who are doing dumping because they come down to the poorest neighborhoods, the people who are already struggling, South Broadway corridor, Plainview, Hilltop, South City, and they do this dumping and they don't care about the people that are there and the people that it affects and the kids playing in the area. So that is another one that I am proud of that was passed recently. And right now we do have an ordinance that we are looking at. I think next month it might be coming up or later this month, cracking down on hotels and motels, licensing them. We know, especially in my district, that there's quite a large issue with some of the hotels and motels not staying within their lanes as what they're supposed to do, not upkeeping the property, allowing certain things to go on within the area. So we will be looking at licensing them, and if they step out of line, we will come up with an improvement plan. And if they don't go through with that improvement plan, we will have the ability to take occupancy from them. So I think this will be another one trying to get just these businesses into alignment with what the public expects and giving some relief to a lot of the people in our district who live adjacent to them.
And I have another question from the audience here. It says, when will the West Bank development start? And I'm having a little trouble reading the second line here. Oh, and is there a time clawback?
There is, and there would be a letter, a fix-it letter if they get outside of the timeline. It is going on right now in some stages. Recently, we did have to transfer some land from a developer who was not doing what they should have done. That was voted on before I was on council, but I did vote for the transfer to try and get it into the hands of a developer who would actually do this. This is important because we have to have the property there to help pay off the CID, the STAR bond, the TIF in the area. So the fact that the other developer was dragging their feet so often for so many years really put us behind the 8 ball as far as being able to pay off that debt. And if we don't get that debt paid off, it's not something we kick down the road. It's something we have to start paying out of our general fund. So it's important that we get this going. They have been moving dirt down there. They have been laying the groundwork. There are a couple of other plots that we are in discussions with some people about getting developed as well. But it's important, especially for the areas that we are currently working on, that we do that. And again, if they fall behind schedule, we can send a fix-it letter and give them 30 days, I believe it is, to respond to it and actually get to where they need to be. And then after that, there are clawbacks in there where we could take that back.
There's another big issue out there, and it's not something that directly impacts District 3, but a lot of people are talking about, and that is the paid parking that is being implemented in downtown. Can you sum up for us what is happening there, and give us your voting history on that, and explain your thoughts on where this is and where it should be going forward, or what to do about it?
I think if you take one thing away from tonight, I did not vote for the paid parking downtown. This might be the most unifying thing that I have seen in the city of Wichita in my lifetime. Nobody seems to like it. The idea behind it, I understand the idea behind it. It's if we pay for the parking downtown, it's more like a user fee. The people who go downtown will pay this fee. They will be able to put that money back into the infrastructure down there. So you and I, who are currently paying for that, won't have to pay for that again. And then we can free up some money and spend it elsewhere. My thoughts on it, though, is, first of all, we don't have the density of downtown. That's one of the issues that they talk about, is being able to move people along, in and out of spots. So that way somebody doesn't just park in one spot all day. I drive downtown every day. I don't see that density yet. I don't see the need for it down there yet. Maybe in 10 or 20 years, if all the development keeps going the way we hope it is downtown, that might be a time for it. I just personally don't see it quite yet. I think it is burdensome for some of the businesses down there. So that's, again, another thing is I actually had to pay at Century 2 today, and I found out they took out the parking meters, the ones that you use change on. That was there the last time I was there. I know it was just a small parking lot. Most of it was you had to use the app. I'm old-fashioned. If I get voted out of office, I swear I am going to a flip phone. So I hate having apps on the screen, and I can imagine other people who aren't used to that as well, especially some of our elderly residents struggling with that as well. So yeah, take that away. Tell everybody, let them all know Mike Hoheisel did not vote for downtown parking.
Okay, I think these will probably be our last two questions of the evening. They're from our audience. What are your thoughts on city finances? I understand that everyone is affected by inflation and affordability, but the city also has increasing costs. I am leery of switching to sales tax-based financing. How do we fund the necessary functions of government, including quality of life improvements, which I think are necessary?
Good question, and this is topical. Recently, we did have the debate about lowering the mill levy, and I did vote for that. And that was a tough vote for me because I thought there were better ways of giving money back to the taxpayers. Last year it was over 7%. Your assessments went up on your houses. This year it was 8.6%. When you're in a job like mine, you are dealing with people at their worst. And there are people who are getting priced out of their homes, especially senior citizens, people on working wages, people on disability. Their wage increases and their disability and Social Security is not going up as much as the assessments are. What I wanted to do was actually match the city homestead tax or the state homestead tax. We did do that briefly in 2023. We had some extra money, so we gave a tax rebate. Now, the homestead taxes are aimed at senior citizens who make under a certain amount or have a certain amount of property value on their homes, disabled American veterans, and some people in poverty who have less than $25,000 on their home. That is a way that could have majorly impacted. It could have up to $250 rebate for senior citizens to help stay in their homes. So our assessments actually came back. We had been talking for quite a while about budget deficits. We had a projected deficit. It came in, again, because of the assessments rising. It actually came in above what we thought, and we had extra funding there. Again, I wanted to actually give it directly to the people who needed it the most. If you go through parliamentary procedure, the vote was called. I wasn't able to make some of the amendments and suggestions that I wanted to. I was given 2 different turd burgers to really take a bite out of, and I went with that one. We are discussing a sales tax, a potential sales tax. I have reservations about it because it is a regressive tax. It does hit people who are renters. But one thing this does is it also 25 to 30% of the sales tax would be capturing from outside the city. So people who come in here, they buy something at our restaurants, they come in, they buy something at Walmart, and are able to reinvest. Most major cities have a sales tax. A lot of it's dedicated to things like transit, community projects. If you go down to Oklahoma and you see the MAPS plan down there, they have community investments and the community votes on it. And if we push through with a sales tax, you all would get the chance to vote on that. So that's leaving it up to the taxpayers. One thing I do want to do, currently the municipalities are still tied to taxing food. So right now you are paying a 1% sales tax on food from the county sales tax. I'd like to work with our elected officials in Topeka to see if we can give us the opportunity to back out of that so it is less regressive and we're not taxing people for the necessities that they have that they need to spend on every single day. So it's a project in motion right now. It's kind of a plan in motion. We'll see how it all shakes out. And I can't dedicate myself one way to another at it at this point. We'll just have to see what the details are and what the consensus on council is. Pretty long-winded, I know.
Okay, and we have a question. This same question was submitted to our website, and I'm really glad that the person who's asking this question is here tonight to put it on a card, because I'm not quite sure what agency they're referring to. So let me read the question, and then maybe the asker of the question can clarify that for me. We have our constitutional rights being violated in Wichita right now. We have a joint city-county agency that pays its own salaries using their police powers. Will you commit to removing their police powers or their immunity from prosecution? Because having both and being able to enrich themselves using police powers and having immunity is doing extreme harm to the populace. Will you commit to having a citizen review board be a check on their power? And I'm not sure exactly what agency, so if whoever asked that question, if you could.
I don't think the name of the agency needs to be discussed right now. The problem is the amount of power that they have, and they are seriously traumatizing people in this community.
But if we don't know what agency it is, we really can't address the question. Okay. All right, then we'll.
We need
Okay, we'll move on to a.
Number of senior citizens who have been personally attacked by this agency.
Okay, well, we'll move on to another question then. Let's talk about the Century 2.
That question needs to be answered.
I think, as I recall, you were the only one to vote not to cut the budget for Century 2 this year. And we continue to hear rumblings about tearing it down and building another convention center. Just this week, the Wichita Business Journal did an article about that. So I think it would be helpful to all of us here if you could sum up your position on the future of Century 2.
It's the people's building. I think the people should have a say in the future. There will come a time when it will be outdated. But the price tag for a replacement, I believe, was $1.2 billion the last time I checked. I don't think our community can afford that right now. We are looking at some possible alterations. I know we had looked at improving the Bob Brown building, doing some improvements also adjacent to that with the library. But when I ran, one of the points was on actually investing in Century 2. And the first couple of years on council, we put $18 million into upkeep on the building. It had been deferred maintenance for quite some time. We have put a new roof on it. We have given it some new life. There are some interesting proposals on what to do with it. Again, it's the people's building. I want to hear what the people want to do with it. And we'll move forward on that. Again, the price tag scares me for any replacement. We can look at that for other areas of town as well. I like a lot of the ideas I hear about there, about Century 2, potentially a museum hall there where we could have different museums in there. That would be pretty interesting. So there's a lot of ideas out there. But I need to be told by the public that they're ready to move on from Century 2 before we move on it. And again, having the plan laid out on that, what is the price tag? How are we going to pay for it? I maybe go to 1 or 2 shows at Century 2 a year. I think it's tough to ask my district and my people who I don't think go down there quite as often to pay for major improvements there or actually demoing it and putting something new there. So I just have to have a plan that the public can get behind before we talk about moving on from it.
Okay. Well, it seems like we are just about to getting toward the end of our time together here tonight. We certainly want to get the library people home on time. But I'd like to thank I'd like to thank the library, of course, for providing this space that we're using, and the members of the Wichita Journalism Collaborative for helping for all they've done to put this together, and the people from the League of Women Voters. They have a registration table in the back here, as I understand, so you can register to vote back there. And Mike, I'd like to thank you for coming down and sharing with us tonight. And so I would excuse me, and thank all of you for coming. I really appreciate you being here. These city issues are important, and we tend to think in terms of, like, when we think about politics and we think about government, we tend to think about national politics, national government, and we get really excited about those things. But this is the level at which the things that actually directly affect you happen. So I'm just glad that we can get together in a forum like this and just talk about some of what's going on in our city. I'm going to remind you that the election will be Tuesday, November 4th, so be sure to vote. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mike here for a brief closing statement if he'd like to do one. So there you go.
You really asking a politician to be brief?
Yes.
No, I'd like.
Take that microphone away from you.
I'm scared.
Remember, you got about 3 minutes before they come in here and turn off the lights on us.
Okay, I will try to be brief. I thank you all, and thank you to everybody that I work with in the city. Thank you to everybody who believes in transparency and getting the word out on what our positions are and holding our feet to the fire. That's one thing I have talked about quite a bit is accountability. A lot of things that we electeds can hide behind other people and say, oh, it's this person's fault or that. Harry Truman's one of my heroes. The buck stops here. That is literally on the desk in my office. So it is good to actually come out and hold us accountable. It's been a long 4 years, and it'll be a long 4 years if I do get reelected. But again, I'm here to work for the people. And I'd like to see true democracy. So even if you're voting for my opponent, please get out to the polls. I want to hear what the city thinks. I want us to move in a direction in a consensus. I want us to be able to have these conversations because we've been missing it for so long. And society that we have nowadays is so torn up. City government, local government, that's really one of the last bastions of impartiality, of actually trying to come together to solve issues, because if we don't do that, we feel the impact here more than anywhere else. We see that in our parks. We see that in our roads. We see that in our police force. We see that in our fire services. So it's important that we come together and have civil discussions about these issues that we have facing us today, because if we don't, it's not us who's going to suffer, it's our children who are going to suffer. And we all want to come together and make a great world and a great city moving forward for all the kids out there in our city. And that's one thing that I've been dedicated to. Okay. So thank you.
All right. Well, thank you. And thank you all for coming. And thank you to the people at home who are watching us on live stream. Thanks to KSN. And smash that like button. Other than that, I think we're finished here. I think we've had a good discussion tonight. So, thank you very much.